Welcome, everyone, to Name Confidential Live.
Welcome, everybody, to Name Confidential Season 2, Episode number 40. I'm your host, Ben Fox, and I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker, Laura Redfern, today. Laura is a certified financial planner and a certified financial transitionist with Shadowridge Asset Management. So, welcome, Laura. Good to see you today, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Ben. I'm so excited to be here.
Definitely. Well, I know we were talking a little bit before we hopped on here. What is a certified financial transitionist?
Unfortunately, it's one of the best kept secrets, I think, in financial planning, and we don't want it to be that way. But there's a small group of us that it goes through the Financial Transitionist Institute, or FTI. It's a designation, kind of like a CFP, Certified Financial Planner. But a transitionist focuses on what might be the soft side of financial planning, and it's dealing with clients who are in transition. So it's how to help them move out of whatever kind of emotional side they might be in, as well as the nuts and bolts financial side. It's been really helpful for me in looking at how to really serve your clients really well when they're in those stressful situations, which I think we'll probably talk about more today.
No, definitely. So it's something that you would get after you get your CFP then?
That's
That,
right. It's
okay.
Yeah. One of the requirements actually is that you have a CFP or a CPA designation before you become a transitionalist. So it's kind of like a really cool add-on.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I'm excited. Before we hop in, we always like to go over the name exposure index. So as a reminder to everybody, the name exposure index represents the average or average exposure to U.S. equity markets reported by our members. This week it looks like we went up a little bit from the previous week from 84.87 to 90.35. So we did see an uptick there. Do you guys contribute to the name exposure index?
My husband Ryan does, yes.
Do you have any idea if you were higher, lower, or about the same as this number?
My guess would be about the same or maybe a bit higher. I know there was a bit of a dip, but it was a short-lived dip. So maybe we would be about the same this week, but Ryan would actually know our numbers, not me.
Yeah, I know we're definitely higher on our end. And I
Hmm.
think we submit this every Wednesday. So that was Wednesday when the dip was, or was that Tuesday? I can't remember now.
I can't remember either. Like we were saying earlier, it's been a long week.
It has. But yeah, that's where that's at. And I'm going to unshare my screen here so that you can bring up your slides and we can hop into it.
Great. Okay. Well, I know what we were talking about at first, Ben, was government shutdowns. So that's the first slide that I have. I'll share that first.
Yeah, so yeah, to kind of phrase the question behind this, when you hear about a potential or active government shutdown, what is your first move as a CP or a CFP or CEFT? There we go.
All those letters, I know.
I know, yeah.
I think my first message to clients is don't panic. Maybe that's a little bit like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You remember that book and how it has a big soft front cover that says "Don't panic" and a smiley face. I feel like that's me when it comes to these things like government shutdowns. Mostly people are nervous because of the unknowns, and they probably need help navigating the emotions as well as the money questions. So that's what my first thought is, especially as a transitionist. It depends on the client. Sometimes they need to address those emotions first, like fear or even anger. But sometimes they need to address the money or the nuts and bolts first. So the slide that I have actually shows first that government shutdowns are not as uncommon as you might think. They're historically, this chart goes back to the 70s. There's about two each decade in the US, which doesn't make them common, but it also doesn't make them once in a lifetime kind of events either. So that helps to normalize it, I think. The other thing that's interesting is this is showing the S&P 500 and its reaction is kind of meh. The government shutdown doesn't really seem to fuel or drive what goes on in the S&P. It's more whatever else is going on, and the trend seems to continue. If it was kind of going down, it continues to go down. If it was going up, it continues to go up. So the government shutdown part really is not that important in the terms of what's going on in the market. What's more important are the decisions people make with their finances, I think.
What tendencies do you see with clients? Do they tend to lower exposure often or kind of go fear-based, or what do you see in general?
Usually, what I see in general is because the clients that we have obviously prefer working with an advisor. What they usually are looking for is just perspective or
Mhm.
guidance. So when we give that, sometimes the reaction is to do nothing. Just, okay, I got it. Everything's cool. Um, Sometimes they want to move more aggressive. That's been what I've been seeing recently with the latest government shutdown is, hey, yay, this is a dip and let's buy on the dip, which is a little surprising. I think in the past years, I've seen more fear and wanting to lower exposure, but not right now.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I've seen a little bit. I mean, we don't do full financial planning on our end, but I have seen some more greed coming in on it from our investors in a sense, which I do find interesting as well, because I was, like you were saying, used to seeing the fear at least the last
Yeah.
time we'd be kind of going through some of
Yeah.
these drawbacks.
I wonder if it's because the last 2 years have been kind of unusually high. And so investors maybe who've been around a little bit know that this is not going, this upward trend may not continue forever. So they're looking for dips to be able to buy. And there haven't been a lot of dips just in recent years. It's a completely unproven theory of mine.
It's hard to know. I mean, the behavioral finance side, that's a whole nother animal in our industry that I think we could always put a little bit more perspective and insight into as advisors.
Absolutely. I think that's an important um, part of the relationship and why people benefit from working with us is that perspective, just like you said.
It is. It's also one of the big reasons when people talk about, oh, well, what if AI comes in? I think that's where advisors are going to have a huge advantage over that. Now, I'll admit, when I talk to AI, sometimes it can be very nice and comforting back to me, but it's just not the same as face-to-face conversation.
Yeah, and you can't have the context unless you upload your entire life to AI, which I certainly would not suggest. But an advisor will know if you've worked with a client for a while, but an advisor will know the the context that a client brings, which really inform the decisions that they make going forward as well.
No, definitely. That's very true.
I think that's part of an advisor's job, and maybe the one of the most valuable parts is that they have to meet the client where they are, but they don't go where the client is. It's my job to help them move forward and to come out of where they are and to do better.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. That's good. Well, the other question I had was, historically, do you see any patterns within the government shutdowns? You did kind of cover that, so I'll jump to the next one here. Um, do you see these government shutdowns creating any opportunities? And if so, where do you see those?
I really do. Not only in buying the dips, as we said, like investors are kind of looking for right now, but also in looking at that softer side in client relationships of being a real thought partner. Because when a client tells me I'm worried about something, that should trigger a whole conversation that might be about something other than investments, might even be about something other than money. So I love that opportunity to dig in deeper to a client's concerns and lifestyle and whatever else is going on. So I find that to be a huge trust builder that you're demonstrating that you're not just concerned about the investments, but also about what's on their mind and their livelihood and their well being. So that can lead to financial planning conversations, but you don't have to be in financial planning to demonstrate that value. Some advisors don't go that deep with clients, but you are able to show that you can better serve them when you understand more of how they think and what their concerns are.
Definitely. I know something whenever we're hitting kind of a rough period in the market, and some of the local networking groups that I'm in, they're like, "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing with in your industry right now?" And I say, "Well, I'm taking on the role as a financial therapist right now."
Yes.
And I kind of jokingly say it, but it's true in the sense that you really are you're asking a lot of questions like you do in therapy. You're learning a lot about the situation. You almost are a financial therapist. So it's the more I've been in this industry, the more I've seen just how important that is. And you're just confirming that again.
Yes, absolutely. Because the financial therapy part, and by the way, financial therapists are an actual thing, and I'm not a certified therapist, but the part of the client relationship that's more therapeutic like really drives the decisions that they make financially. So if you look at that way, if you're an AUM type of shop, you're also protecting your business by understanding why a client makes the decisions that they make.
Hmm. Well, cool. I know you got another slide here. I think that covers this last question that I have, which is what's your approach when clients face cash flow issues or delayed income during government shutdown?
Yes, such a good question. So I'll go to my next slide here. Did kind of a brain dump on sources that clients should think about when it comes to a financial emergency. We were talking about a government shutdown, for example. That's a little bit of a different animal because it might be very short term. We don't know, and that's part of the struggle is not knowing if it's a few weeks or a few months, but it's likely not going to be a few years. So this is a short term financial emergency. What resources might clients have? So first off, I'll talk to them about an emergency savings account. We coach clients constantly about this from day one, not just when the emergency happens, but of having the goal of 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in a savings account so that you can tap into exactly for this reason, right? That's the first place that you should go. But some other things that clients may not consider would be to reach out to creditors. I don't know about you, Ben, but like when I've logged into my credit card this month, there's a little banner on the top that will say, "Are you affected by the government shutdown? Click here, we might be able to help." I mean, my credit card company, wow, that's kind of neat. I'm thinking I haven't looked into it because I'm not adversely affected, but I imagine that there might be, hey, we'll delay your credit card payment for a month, or just some other resources that might be available that maybe people don't think about right away. But it seems like there's a lot of help out there that's possible to tap into. Here's another thought, your own personal circle. And that could even be non-financial emergency resources. Like if it comes down to it and you need a meal, you could do like a potluck or childcare with another mom. You could do a childcare swap or even clothing, or it just depends what that emergency need is. You might be able to get creative with your own community, your church, your friends, and it doesn't have to be financial. When we go to the financial resources, though, I've already coached a few clients into considering a 401k loan. Not my first place to go, but that is often a great resource if you have it, because you are essentially paying yourself back rather than paying a creditor an interest rate. And the terms are often quite favorable, better than what you could find out there from like a bank loan, for example. So that's always a first place to go. And then use your credit card wisely, because if it was a situation where you needed just some cash for like a month until you get your back pay, for example, you might be able to put that on a credit card and have 1 month of interest and then pay it off immediately. You got to be careful with that, but it could be a short-term solution rather than where I'm going here is the IRA distribution, which is where many people go as kind of the first knee-jerk reaction. And it's probably the worst idea in most cases. Why? If you're under 59 and a half, you're going to get the 10% tax penalty plus your normal tax rates on income. I mean, for most people, that's like a 35% hit. And that's way worse than probably what you would have on a credit card or a 401k loan or the other options available to you. So I have to kind of think through that order of operations when helping someone think about emergency cash flow.
And there isn't like this is step one, step two. You're going to look at the client situation and it's going to change based on that, right?
Exactly. Some clients don't have a 401k loan, for example. A lot of the teachers that I work with are in the state's pension plan. Can't take out a loan from that. So that one's knocked off. But just kind of educating clients through what other options there are out there, I think is very helpful.
I'm curious as to why just human nature is to think about like the IRA first. I don't
That's
know if
such
you
a
have
great
any insight on
observation.
that.
I do. I love human psychology, so I've thought about that myself, Ben. And I think we are somewhat trained to look at pots of money when we're feeling nervous about money.
Mhm.
So okay, first pot, my bank account. Shoot, there's not enough there. Where's my second pot? Oh, I don't have an emergency savings account. Oh my gosh, the next pot. Okay, IRA, because we might look at that as just another pot of money without thinking about how that pot is constructed. It's not like the other pots. It's got all these tax and penalties and different ramifications. It's not really a pot at all. It's kind of a pit as that goes. But I think that might be why the human brain goes towards that, is we just kind of think pot, 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 money, 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 and that they're all the same. So it takes an advisor or someone who is familiar with the different pots to differentiate and say, one of these things is not like the other, and help them out.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. In your experience, how many do you have an idea of how many clients have an emergency savings account?
Oh, wow. That's a neat piece of data. I should go back and take a look. I don't, but if I were to guess, oh, a generous guess would probably be about half. I know even saying that that's higher than probably what the national average would be, though, because many people don't, or they maybe have $1,000, is what I remember hearing in the past. Um, I mean, we live in a consumer-driven society, and saving is not as encouraged as it probably should be.
Yeah, so I always wonder about that because I we deal with a lot of younger clients in our business, and I've started to see a little bit more of a trend to having a savings account. But like,
Yay!
let's say 5 years ago, that was nowhere, that wasn't even brought up. And I don't know if like, thinking 5 years back, COVID, if COVID kind of impacted that, like, hey, maybe if something comes along, I want to have this. But I just remember growing up, I always thought it was strange that I was like one of the few kids who had a savings account. Now, of course, having a father in finance definitely helped with that. But it just was to me, it just seemed like a no-brainer. But then it also I was told about that growing up,
Mhm.
and you're not really that isn't really taught in school that much on like the value that that has. And
Yeah. I know that there's been a great movement to have more financial literacy classes in schools, elementary, high school, for example. I hope that that is continuing, because I agree. When I grew up, I wasn't taught any of this stuff at all. I don't think I even learned like what balancing a checkbook was until I got into college and had a checkbook, right? So there's a lack of that. But your comment about having a savings account as a kid made me think of the difference I observed growing up between me and my brother. That it was, and that was just a personality thing. We weren't really taught anything about finance. But when we would have a garage sale, you remember those back in the day? You have like a yard sale or a garage sale. Maybe it was a Midwest thing. Um, but you would sell some of your old toys, and I would just be so happy to put that into my piggy bank. I was a saver. I loved it. And my brother, not only did he love to go out and spend it, he spent it before he sold his old toys. He was already out buying the next Sega Genesis game, whatever, before he had even had the money. And he was like taking a loan from my parents. And it just kind of cracks me up to see those two very different behaviors in the same family.
when you think of the psychology aspect of it, I mean, we're taught here how to spend money
Yeah.
and do that, but can you teach the saving aspect of it? It might be a little bit harder because I think some tendencies are a little bit easier to go after, but
Yeah.
I wonder if you could frame something that would help with that saving because I don't know. When I heard you talk about how there were the different buckets, the second one was the emergency savings account, and I do believe that that is the second bucket, but not as many people have that or have adequate amount in there. So then they move on to the other buckets.
Yeah.
And you could really get ahead of the game just by going back to the building up your savings account when
Oh my
you're
gosh,
in times of
yes.
prosperity. So,
I was so amazed when I talked to my retired clients, that a common theme was how much an emergency savings account brought them peace of mind. In retirement, you almost think of it as a younger person's priority. Like if you have young children, you should definitely have some emergency savings. Or if you have a big mortgage because you recently bought a house. But that's not true. It becomes really significant, I think, psychologically, when you are a bit older and maybe have a fixed income because you're living off of your investments or a pension. It's nice to see that emergency savings and to know that you have that in case life throws you a curveball.
no, definitely. Yeah, I'm thinking back here. This conversation's got me thinking of just about human tendencies and all that stuff going on. Um, what else have you what's kind of your experience in this? Let's see, what's the question I'm trying to say here? Do you have like a good example of where you've seen this work out with some of your clients and maybe or where it wasn't working out before they came to you and then they got on track and figured out how to build that plan together for something like this?
Actually, yes, when you said that, one particular client came to my mind. This was years ago. She was a bit of a spender, didn't really even have any idea where money went from paycheck to paycheck, and had racked up a lot of credit card debt. When she came to me, her husband had just passed, and she was kind of drowning in debt and trying to also figure out how to navigate the estate, and had a lot going on. So we took everything together, basically did like a net worth sheet, helped her figure out where everything was, helped her to get a plan to pay off the credit card debt. And because she was so determined from that experience not to get in that situation again, boy, she paid off the debt. She lived on a budget. And over the years, she got so far ahead. She got out of that hole of credit card debt just by being really disciplined, and also by being coachable. If that's, something to consider, is she listened to it, and she wasn't stuck in her old identity of the young mother who spent a lot. She was now moving into a different identity of, now I'm a widow, now I have to think a little differently, and so I'm also going to change my behavior to come out of this better than how I entered it. It was a really cool experience.
That's good. That's great to hear. That's one of the blessings we get in the finance industry. So,
Absolutely. And to tack on to that, not only did she get out of that dark situation, but she also wanted to do better for her daughters. And therefore, she started saving into her retirement plans. And pretty soon here, she's going to retire. Like I said, that was years ago. So fast forward, now we're to where she can almost retire. And she is in a great spot because of the discipline that she showed and the amount of savings she has compiled over the years through that experience.
that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah. I think I got one more question and then I'm gonna do a little plug for our Outlook conference coming up here soon. And that is, where do you see active management fitting into financial planning?
Oh, it's such a good question. Again, dealing with kind of the psychological aspect first, I think active management can help clients feel slightly more in control. And so the financial planning becomes a little bit easier for them to swallow. So, in other words, when you have an active manager, you don't have to give a client an unsatisfactory answer of, well, market's down, that's just what the market does, which kind of encourages victim mentality,
Mm.
which is not helpful at all, but also in financial planning. So instead, active managers can communicate a plan or a strategy. Well, the market's down and we feel XYZ, therefore we are doing XYZ. And it not only feels comforting to a client, but also acknowledges the client's fear or uncertainty. It's saying, yes, we see this. here is our response. And it communicates, we are giving this some thought and we're not brushing it off. So I think they work together really well in helping the client to feel heard. And then they can feel more confident, not only in their manager, their portfolio management team, but also just in their own financial life. And it makes it a highly referable story.
No, I love that. Thank you. Well, perfect. Well, I'm gonna jump over and share my screen to do a little bit on the NAAIM Outlook conference that's coming up.
Yay! While you do that, Ben, I just got to say the NAAIM conferences are great. So anyone who hasn't been to one, why haven't you been to one? Go. They're fantastic. You can meet cool people like Ben Fox. Come on.
Well, yeah,
And your other colleagues. They're great.
the hosts that we have, a lot of the people who show up on Name Confidential are going to be at the conference too. So, we got Jim Bianco is going to be there. That's always a big name there. Sean Bailey. I
Oh,
mean, here's just kind
cool.
of a
Horse's Mouth
oh
is great. I love them as a resource.
oh yeah. The roundtables are always fun. Get some really good perspective. Sometimes those are just some of the most valuable because you get into the nitty-gritty and you get the examples from other name members, other like-minded people there.
I also get a lot of great tech these days, Ben. I don't know about you, but the roundtables where people say, "Have you tried out this software or this company or this solution?" And I hear things that I would never hear otherwise. So love the roundtable.
Oh no, definitely. But yeah, so it's coming up November 3rd and 4th. It's in Chicago. We still got a little bit of time. I believe you can still sign up if you want to go there. If you see this and you're like, "Oh shoot, like can I still make it?" You can. We'll be there in Chicago. And does it have the hotel on here? Can't remember if it's on here. Yeah, Renaissance Chicago O'Hare. Okay.
Nice.
And then
Hey, there's my husband right there.
yeah, there's Ryan.
Awesome photo.
I remember that. That was actually the last time we were in Chicago, or maybe 2 times ago now. I don't know. Time flies by at these
It does.
conferences. So
I know it's post-COVID because he's got his beard.
yeah. Oh, it says right there, 2022.
Oh, there you go. We were both wrong. It was 3 years ago.
Sometimes reading
Oh,
helps.
no, that's great. I'm glad that you all keep doing it because those conferences are so much fun.
They are. We got one always in this half of the year, and then another one around the May timeframe, the UK Uncommon Knowledge Conference. So if anybody watching wants any information on that, you can always reach out to me at benfox's.scarecrowtrading.com or info@name.org and talk to Susan. Um, and then I forgot to let you share your contact information, Laura, if anybody wants to reach out to you.
Yeah, no problem. I can share my cute little screen here. If you know any of the NAAIM members, they probably would know how to get a hold of me too. Especially Ryan, of course. But there you go. Our website is shadowridgeinvest.com, and you can reach me at laura@shadowridgeinvest.com.
Well, perfect. Do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to share before we hop off?
I know that sometimes I'm asked for a quote, like an
Oh
investment
yeah.
quote or a money quote. And so I thought of one to share here, and that was Susan Bradley, the founder of Financial Transitionist Institute, says, "When money changes, life changes. And when life changes, money changes." So it's something that I like to keep in mind and think about.
Yeah, no, the full circle. I like that. Hmm.
Circle of life, if you will.
Yeah. Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for hopping on today and all the
My
great knowledge that you
pleasure.
shared with us.
Thank you for
And
having me.
definitely. And then see you at Outlook or the next conference, wherever we see you next. And we'll catch everybody next week at the next